Discussion board number 8. Number 1, describe the dramatic situation in this poem. The setting of the poem is late evening, nighttime. It's getting very dark, and the speaker in this poem, uh, he starts to have an inner conflict. He's talking about one, and he's talking to himself in his head. And in this darkness, he loses his self-image and his sense of sight, and he has to start to rely on his other senses to combat this inner conflict that he's having. Number 2, describe the rhyme scheme. Uh, each of us had a different answer to this. One of us in the group put A, B, C, B, D, E, D, F, G, F, G, F, H, H, and myself and another member of the group thought it was A, B, A, B, C, D, C, D, E, F, E, F, G, G. And after reading both the responses, I took a look at it again, and I actually came up with another one. And I came up with A, B, C, B, D, E, D, E, D, E, D, E, F, F, if that is correct. So we each had a different opinion on that question. So number 3, name the subject for each of the verbs. And the first subject was gives, and we see this in quote, yet still having power of sight, gives vain alarms to the inward senses. So this basically means our senses start to alarm us. And confounds, number 2, we see it in quote, where fear steered up with witty tyranny confounds all powers. So our fear is confusing our powers, basically. And confounds in this sense means to deny, like you're being denied the power of your senses. And number 3, forge and raise. We see this in quote, and through self-offense doth forge and raise impossibility. It's basically saying that to break through this sense of self-offense that you're having, it to prove the impossible, make the impossible possible. Moving on to number 4, summarize the quatrains and couplet arguments. In the first quatrain, it's nighttime. All is dark and black, and any sense of our perception is gone. It's lost, and the speaker starts to examine himself. He's having that inner conflict. In quatrain 2, the speaker is confused with fear, and the thought of impossibilities start to arise. Fear starts to consume the speaker. In quatrain 3, the speaker, he reflects on his errors, his quote inward evils. And in the couplet, the speaker or the couplet tells us that quote, in the end, evil does nothing if fear is already in you. And that was the answer from one of the members in the group. Number 5, describe the theme and paradox of the poem. The basic theme of this poem is basically worrying about being in fear of losing your senses, and after so, trusting them in time of an internal conflict. The paradox is that even though it's dark and your sense of sight is gone, you can't see. Even though that is going on, you can still see your inner self, even though your actual sense of sight is gone. Now, part 2, state the theme and paradox. The basic theme of this poem is it's mostly about humanity and our kind of relationship to nature. The paradox here is that nature is, this all powerful thing, yet it still feels for the human race, still has some sort of emotion for the human race, and also it's sort of like our teacher. Like how can we know what is right and wrong if nature does not fail and punish? And quote, if nature did not take delight in blood, she would have made more easy ways to do good. So I think the poem is kind of saying that nature can be our teacher, like it teaches us right and wrong.